yeah, brother. God bless. God bless, brother. I'm cranking my hog. God bless. Hell yeah, brother. Well, this is a video that is long overdue. This is my 2013 Sportster 48 1200cc. We're gonna ride it. Can't even put my kickstand up. Rookie move. But you know, typical Harley Davidson, not even having a kickstand kill switch. You just die. When you ride a Harley, if you make a mistake, you just die. Oh yeah, you just can't beat that sound of American muscle. God bless. Hell yeah, brother. Annoying all the rich people living around here. So, like I said, this is my 2013 Sportster 48. It's a 1200cc Harley Davidson Sportster. And, let's see, we gotta go back in time a little bit and tell the full story about how I got this bike. I got this bike following my 2006 GSX-R 600. I sold that bike, not really having any idea what I was going to get next. I just knew it was time to sell that bike because I was having so many problems with it, and I had already sank like $4,000 into it, I think, in repairs. So, got rid of that, sold it, felt very sad, didn't have a bike, didn't know what I was going to do. And basically got around to talking to my good friend Jay, aka Cloudy Boy. You can find him on BeatStars. He makes beats for all of your rapping needs and whatnot. Find some of his beats in my videos. But I digress. He was looking at motorcycles himself, and he was much more into cruiser style bikes. Indian Scout Bobber was like his dream bike. That's what he was really looking at. And he got me into looking at cruisers, because prior to that I was solely a sport bike type guy. I was like, why would I ever want a cruiser? And he basically turned me on to cruisers, like, entirely. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about why I got this bike and why I think it is maybe a really good first bike if you're looking for a first bike. Could be. So I ended up picking this bike up for a really good deal, and not really knowing what I was getting myself into. You know, coming from a sport bike to a cruiser, like a straight up Harley cruiser or that, I really wasn't too sure what I was getting into. I just kind of said, oh, screw it, let's get a Harley and see if I like the cruiser style, and maybe down the road I'll end up picking up a Indian Scout Bobber or some other type of cruiser down the line if I really like it. Well, I picked this up in 2020, right around the start of actually it might have even been 2019, but it was right around the start of the COVID situation. You know, right around there. I had no bike because I just sold my Gixxer, and so I picked this up. And one of the thoughts was I was going to get it so that my girlfriend could ride more comfortably on the back, and we could ride together, go on some nice motorcycle adventures and whatnot. And it has certainly worked for that. Way better than the Gixxer in that regard. Road closed. What the? Guess we're taking a detour. Anyway, so I've had this bike now. I've put probably about 9,000 miles on it. I put a good amount of miles on it, and I think that it is way overdue for me to talk about why I think this is such a good bike, and whether or not it's a good first bike for somebody, because I mean, first bikes now, definitely a hot topic. Alright, so first of all, I'm just gonna put this out there. You know, not an expert on motorcycles by any means. I'm not, you know, my word is not the word of God. You don't need to believe it. You don't need to take anything I say for granted. It's just my opinion. And I'm going to put my opinion out there right now on whether or not the Sportster 1200 platform is a good first bike. Absolutely. Absolutely it is. Oh my God, it is such a good first bike. I mean, you get so much out of this bike. And here's the thing, you need to look at it a little bit differently, because you see 1200 cc's, I think a lot of people think like, oh my God, that's a huge bike. That's too much bike for a first bike. I don't know. I don't know if I'd say that. Detour again? What do you mean? I thought this was the detour. I thought I was on the detour. Can I go this way? I'm completely lost now. But let me put it this way. This Sportster 1200, this V-twin produces much more usable power and much more reasonable power than, let's say, a sport bike equivalent. It seems like to me a lot of people think that 1200 cc's is going to be way too much. And if you're talking about a sport bike or a naked bike, yeah. But when it comes to the Sportster, no, I think that's a reasonable amount. Assuming, of course, that you get the proper training and you do the MSF course and you take it nice and slow. But this is definitely the type of motorcycle that you can grow into. I'm totally lost now. We're just on an adventure at this point. That detour really fucked me up. So obviously I think it's a good bike for your first bike, and the way the power is delivered, the amount of power, I think that's all a big part of it. It's definitely reasonable for a beginner, and especially when it comes, you get it basically detuned and you can get way more power out of it if you want to do whatever, the full stage 1, I guess is what they basically call it, with the air filter, full exhaust, and a tune. And that's what I have on this bike. It definitely, it significantly opens it up. All right, back on the road I originally meant to be on. So aside from just the core of the bike being good, the first reason that I think that this is a really good first bike is the community that surrounds Harley Davidson motorcycles, right? And for some people, I'm sure that's like, oh, what, the stereotypical, like, Hulk Hogan, like, ah, brother, God bless, brother, I'm cranking my hog, God bless. That's only true to some extent. Like, yeah, but here's my point with the community sort of thing, is I have broken down on this bike before, and within the period of 30 minutes, I had 4 people stop and try to help me and I didn't need any help. I had help on the way, but I had 4 people in the span of 30-minute stop, if nothing else, just talk to me. And you know, they were obviously Harley guys, and they're like, yeah, the Sportster's a good bike, brother. Yep, you got a battery tender on that thing. Yep, you might want to get some luggage on it. You know, just really chill people, actually. And all right, you gonna let me go? Thank you. Look at that man cranking his hog. The community of riders in Harley Davidson is definitely something special, and it's kind of like you're either in the club or you ain't. You either have a Harley or you don't, right? Like, I broke down on other bikes and nobody stopped. Well, that's not to say like that's the main reason you should buy a Harley, but it's a cool little thing. There is definitely a sense of community there of Harley owners that, you know, especially here in the US, a lot of people really take pride in that, and they really admire other people's Harleys, and it's a cool little cult, I guess. The second reason, one of the most important ones, is the absolute insane aftermarket for this motorcycle. So let me tell you, the aftermarket, mark my words, write them down, the aftermarket for the Sportster, the Harley Davidson Sportster, is the best. There is no better aftermarket for any other motorcycle out there. The aftermarket for this bike is insane. It is insane. I cannot stress that enough. I mean, you can go buy one of these bikes used or off the showroom floor and absolutely turn it into your own. And I would say that's one of the reasons I've held on to this bike for so long, because like every year I'm like, okay, what am I going to do to my Harley this year? And obviously I've done a lot. I've changed out the gas tank, I've changed out the handlebars, I've done full tune on it, changed out the lights, changed out the seat. I can't even go into everything that I've done, because I've done so much I can't remember all of it. But you can turn this bike into whatever you want, and I think that would be really hard to get a Sportster and say like, well, I can't find anything that I can turn this into that I consider to be cool. Like, whatever you consider to be cool. If you think like having the cafe racer style, right, low down handlebars, if you want to have it quiet, if you want to have it loud, I mean, who the hell wants a quiet Harley? That would be weird. But if you want to have it, whatever, change out the gauge cluster, put the gauge cluster down here, put a suicide shifter on it. Like, you can do so much. It is endless possibilities. Aftermarket support for this bike is so good, so top notch. And that's something that I think as a newer rider it's really nice to have, because you can experiment with the bike, really get to know it, work on it yourself. You can turn it into whatever you want. And even if you turn it into something and you decide down the road, like, actually I want to turn it into something else, just the platform of the bike itself is so good, and the aftermarket is so good. You can turn it into whatever. You want a big bore, you want to go all the way and do a big bore kit on it, have at it. All the support is out there that you need to do that. Number 3, this is going to surprise you, and a lot of people are probably going to disagree with me on this, but reliability. Yeah, Harley does not rank best in reliability, I guess, but I just have to speak from my personal experience and the experience of people I know who have owned these bikes, specifically the Sportster, specifically the 1200. Very few problems, and here's the deal. The problems that you do have, this is a very easy bike to work on. I have fixed all the problems myself. Only time I've ever brought this bike into the shop is to have new tires put on, and other than that, I have worked on it entirely on my own. Sort of following up on that, the dealer support for these bikes is obviously really great. You know, you see Harley Davidson dealerships everywhere. If you live in the US, great dealer support. If you live outside the US, I don't know, probably not. But wow, Chipmunk, oh my god, he just barely survived. Oh my god, trying to kill himself out here. And number 4 that I am going to point out here for reasons you should get this bike as the first bike it's just the fun factor. I mean, there's something to be said for all different types of bikes, and really when you're looking for your first bike, there's no right answer, but I think I can honestly say that if you get a Sportster 1200, you can have so much fun with it. You can do so much with it and just have a ton of fun doing it. The sound does not get old, I will say that. The sound of that good old American V-twin power, air-cooled, oh my god, it is something special. There is something to that. I have heard all sorts of bikes in my lifetime. I've ridden probably well over 50 motorcycles, and I still have not heard anything that makes me feel the same way as this motorcycle. And it's just a great all-around bike. You know, for if you want to hit the twisties, you can do that. You're not going to be Rossi out here, but you can certainly be well, that was a tight turn. You know, you can certainly push the bike to its limits. I think that a lot of people get these sport bikes and think that it makes them a better rider. Like, no, you're not going to be able to push those bikes to the limits. This is a really nice bike because you can sort of push it to its limits if you want to hit the twisties, or it's also great for just getting around town and doing whatever, frankly. The fifth and final point here, and I left this one for last because I think it's an important point for why I think this is a really great beginner bike. I have thought about this a lot, and I'm at the point now in my riding where I feel like I'm kind of against rider aids for beginner riders. I think that they're, except for maybe ABS. ABS is probably the exception there, but this bike has no rider aids whatsoever. You know, it's just a raw experience, and there's something to be said for that. So with the exception of ABS, which, I mean, you can get with this bike, I like the fact that it's a raw bike, man. It is unforgiving, but not so unforgiving that you know, you shouldn't get it. I think that it's perfectly, I think it's at that perfect point for a beginner rider, for someone new trying to get into riding. Stop here and get some gas at the good old BJ's. So I really do think that this bike just overall makes a really good platform. I mean, you know, the lack of rider aids is kind of a hit or miss. A lot of people think they're good, a lot of people don't think they're good. I think a lot of newer riders want them on the bikes because it's like technology, and a lot of newer riders are younger people, such as myself, and you know, we kind of are drawn to technology, I guess. But I think there's definitely something to be said for that raw feeling of just not having technology, other than fuel injection too. That's another one. I'm a big fan of fuel injection. Not a big fan of carburetors. Had some not great experiences. But along with the topic of it being a very raw motorcycle, the weight of it is also kind of like in the golden area, I think, for a first bike. A lot of people would say, oh, it's too heavy for a first bike. Like, no, it's not. I assure you it's not. It's really not that heavy. Just ride it for a little while. Here's the thing, if you can't handle a Harley Sportster in terms of weight, then you need to go back to the MSF, in my opinion, or you need to practice more. Just go to a parking lot and practice those figure eights until you're comfortable. because it is not that heavy. You know, I think that's also another thing that's sort of aligned with the technology problem, right? You have these people out here who end up getting, let's say, like, whatever, some of the lighter weight beginner sport bikes, like the Ninja 400 or the R3, whatever. You can get on those bikes, or you know, God forbid, the Honda Grom, you get one of those as your first bike, and it's just too light. It's too lightweight. It doesn't really prepare you for what riding an actual bike, you know, a real bike that you're going to want to own for a long term is like. So I think it's almost more of a shock to go from one of those lighter weight bikes and then get on an actual normal heavy bike. And I mean, even like a bigger sport bike, it's gonna weigh more. So I don't think that those smaller bikes that are super lightweight really prepare you for what riding a motorcycle is actually going to be like. Oh yeah, that sound doesn't get old. It does not. It's not the fastest, it's not the prettiest, it's not the best, but I think it makes a damn good bike, and I think it makes a damn good bike for anyone. I don't think you're gonna get one of these and be disappointed, and that's why I'm recommending it as a great beginner bike. But I would really say just get a bike. That's what you gotta do. There's not necessarily gonna be 100%, you know, just over analyzing it isn't always gonna help you, especially when it's your first bike, because you might be analyzing something that doesn't even matter. I would just get whatever bike you think is good and whatever you think you can handle, and if that happens to be a Sportster, I think that's a great choice. If you made it this far, you are one of the 1% of people, statistically, that made it this far in the video, so drop a comment down below. Let me know that you are one of the 1% of people who made it to the end. Just put 1% in your comment, and I'll know what you're talking about, and I appreciate you guys watching it this far. And you know, hey, my 1%ers, let me know what you think. Sportster 1200, good first bike or no? Am I completely right, completely wrong, somewhere in the middle? I think I'm right, but hey, some of you might have other opinions, and I like to hear what those opinions are. So let me know what you guys started riding on, or if you haven't already, what you're thinking of riding, getting for your first bike. And again, thank you guys for dropping by, and I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, you guys ride safe.